Yeah. So what am I going to talk about? Cherubs and seraphs. I'm just going to get straight into it. What are cherubs and seraphs? Or the seraphim? Or the cherubim. Have you ever seen any of those ancient pictographs of they're like men, and they're bearded, and they have a lion body, but then their feet is that of a horse, and they have wings of a dove. Yeah. And it's like a Sumerian, Babylonian god. That's a good example of what a cherubim looks like. Have you ever seen a phoenix? That might be a good depiction of what a seraph looks like. Only it would look a little bit more serpent than bird. But that's a really good depiction. If you ever look at because it all transferred over in the Mesopotamia, and then you got in Mesopotamia area, your Zoroastrians, that's the word. So if you ever look at the Zoroastrian symbol, or you ever see a Zoroastrian wearing the Zoroastrian necklace, it has their deity on it, and it looks very similar to the deity of the Babylonians and the Sumerians. Can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But they're all over the place. It's just symbolism. They're all over the place in that culture's symbolism, or those cultures' symbolism. They guard the gates, the doors, the knowledge. They are all around us. They depict this in the texts, in the pictures. So why am I talking about cherubs and seraphs? Because it's the same topic of discussion as if someone were to bring up angels and demons. So really I'm talking about angels and demons. Or what are we talking about when we're talking about angels and demons? Okay. So demons are really just fallen angels. And angels are just ascended demons. But where it gets a little bit more intertwined when you actually pinpoint it, because angels and demons are just kind of like a human construct word to define a cherub and seraph, whereas a cherub and seraph is what it is, and it's an interdimensional being. That's what it is. It's a being that isn't born out of a womb like our bodysuits are. You know what I'm saying? Some might even say cherubs and seraphs are our ancestors. We're definitely related to them. Otherwise, there wouldn't be words to talk about them. We're definitely related to them. Because there's things exist outside of this reality, but we don't have words for it. So we don't even experience that reality. You know what I mean? So they're definitely related to us in some way, shape, or form. Period. Because they're on the fifth dimension. And fifth dimension, the real concept behind fifth dimension is there's just no time. So angels and demons in a place that is no time is literally defined as an angel that fell and rose again, and a demon that has fallen, rose, and then fell again. And it literally makes this intertwined triangle. It's like literally the science behind a wave, or corners, or triangles. That's how intuitive this stuff gets, because you're talking about cherubs and seraphs. angels and demons. You're talking about the good doers, the chosen ones, the ascended masters, and you're talking about like the evil doers, the descenders, and the domain holders. It's really a matter of perspective. If you go 750 years back in time, and they're in your physical body, like DNA related to everybody, your DNA related to everybody. It only takes about 750 years for everybody to have a common ancestor. So everywhere that you know that some war or some crime or some crazy thing is going down, it's just cells in its own body attacking itself like a cancer. You're literally fighting your brethren. Yeah, I get it. I do. Trust me, I do. You look at me. I get it. You know, the same people I created are the same people who enslaved me, but are the same people, because I created, I'm related to. And those same people programmed me to hate and fight the people I didn't even create that are actually my brethren. But the people who trained me to do that are also my brethren. You know, you're just not asking the right questions. You're not asking the real nitty-gritties. So the reason why I bring up cherubs and seraphs is essentially, what is a fallen? What is a rosen? What is a devil? It's simple answers provided in this one word. If you say devil backwards, you say lived. You know, so if you live, or evil live, if you live, then like you're like flourishing and growing with life as the seed that you are in the garden that this world is, to grow as a tree up the dimensional ladders, to bear fruit for all on the lower dimensional ladders can get a glimpse of an inspiration to do the same. You see what I'm saying? You are literally cherubs and seraphs already. You know, we have animal DNA in us. Cherubs and seraphs, by that logic, already have animal DNA. They're part, you know, there's different depictions of different cultures of different topics of what cherubs and seraphs specifically you would be referring to. But I mean, they got a human head and they have animal body parts. I'm sorry, but that tells me in symbolism that they are DNA related to animals. We are too. You look in our DNA makeup. We're, you know, all the DNA makeup of all the animals in the animal kingdom, you know, are only a different code away from our body type, essentially. You know, I'm sure humanoid birds, humanoid reptiles, humanoid mammals, humanoid, you know, plant life exist. I'm somewhere. I'm sure of it. Maybe not here somewhere, but somewhere, nowhere, somewhere. Like if I can think about it, it's somewhere for it to have come to me in the first place, before I thought about it. And I don't even know what I'm going to think about next. So, cherubs and seraphs. The reason why I'm jumping all over the place is because it's real easy examples that you can wrap your mind around a place with no time. Because then, essentially, what they basically say is that, like, they came down, created this place. Our ancestors, the cherubs and seraphs, the fallen, they came down, the fallen ones. But they had prerequisites of the higher. That's what they fell from something. That's what you know, fallen. But they created this place the way that we know it today, or can conceive the common hallucination that we co-create and inhabit. And they created the mechanism in which we experience the reality in and of itself. That's where you hear stories about Tiamat or Gilgamesh. Like Gilgamesh's main character is an enigma. You know, you really, the deeper you go, the more you realize, like, it's not. This guy might not have ever even existed, and the whole story is allegorical for yourself. And the main point to take home with Gilgamesh is that he was like the last aware man, aware enough to ask the questions of death, aware enough to go seeking for the last man or human mortal to ever achieve immortality. So the whole quest is about immortality. What is the Kundalini? What is the, reverse aging, getting on your diet? What is all that about? It's about reverse aging. It's about getting out of time. It's about immortality, the fountain of youth. You know what I mean? Cherubs and seraphs. So our ancestors, man. Like, this isn't our ancestors. This isn't our ancestors' ancestors. This isn't our ancient ancestors. This isn't our ancient ancestors. This is our, like, pre-ancient ancestors. Like, we're basically talking about the people who, like, created this place. We're going so far back that, like, for whatever the story is trying to depict, of whatever Adam and Eve might have been. You know what I mean? Like, so you got masculine and feminine energies, and they behave in different mannerisms out of different environmental influences with different heredities of DNA makeups that produce different bioelectric vibrational signatures that reverberate different actions, repercussions, and intentions amongst the space that everything occupies. So just times that by however long life has been on the planet. And then you get to an area where, okay, we start recording history and essentially regurgitating the oldest stories known to man to this day, and glorifying them, romanticizing them, allegoricizing them, and, like, turning them into works of art. That's what all movies are. Like, all movies, like, the further back in time you go, the more it sounds like spaceships and space warfare and technology advancements. That sounds like a sci-fi movie because they get all their material out of the most ancient books. It's the same place where all the religious texts come from. It's the same source of knowledge, and it's the same people who essentially wrote it or saw it happen or recorded some mechanism of how this mechanism works. So, cherubs and seraphs, angels and demons, your ancestors. So what am I really getting onto? You know what I'm saying? There's, like, all different types of beings that occupy these human bodies on this planet. And they're all different varying degrees of DNA mixtures between all of the entities and deities that came together to make this place in the first place. So, like, it's not such a gray line. And it is a very gray line. it is so polarized and duality, but there's varying degrees of each degree within the 50 and 50. And then those types of influences, like, coming together. So basically, two aliens, two interdimensional beings of different makeups, two ideas, two energies, two separate spectrums came together and created a multitude mixture by the simple fact of the idea. You know, for example, when you create something that's partly artificial or artificially influenced something that's organic, you have now not only changed something, but created something new, or that at least this organic makeup has never seen before. So by doing that, you have already essentially created a new list of energies and deities that would essentially associate with those entities. And this is how the concept of cherubs and seraphs even comes about, where duality comes from, essentially. So this conversation is as old as men and women, realistically. Because before there was no men, shit, everybody was telepathic. So what are we talking about? Cherubs and seraphs. Ancestors. You know, the ancient ones. Like, for all we know, every single character that isn't you or the main character inside of all of the ancient texts or stories that are actually talking about the present, that are formulated in the past, whose people ascended to the future, and who are making stories about the future, but that are encompassing the present moment, that we decide how it ends. But they know how it ends because they're in the future, outside of time. And they're negative and positive one, because they're both outside of time. They're death and life one, because they're outside of time. So these people who are telling you that you're the chosen one, and that one day, which is the present moment, you'll be faced with the decision. The dragon will come back. The honor need to be restored to the family. The hero needs to go through the hero's journey to, level up. Those are essentially the cherubs and seraphs telling that story. You can call them demigods. You can call them gods. It just depends on what rung of vibrational reality that you're looking down from amongst the height of the pendulum swing, because it's a polarity and it swings. So I'll get into all of the other terminology that I'm talking about later, but I wanted to harp home on, I wanted to start with angels and demons, because people have a big misconception of what angels and demons really are. They're your ancestors, man. Like, the way that someone gets deified is by doing something epic and legendary, and then they die and make a statue about you. Bro, they deified Michael Jackson. They have made many a statue of him. Literally, that's how you deify someone, is making a statue of someone. That way, when they die, they have a vessel that's associated to their name, their energy signature, their concept of our co-created reality mimicked onto that visual depiction. We know that's a statue of Michael Jackson. That's a vessel, a body, an avatar of sorts that an energy can temporarily inhabit and receive blessings. The statue of give and receive. You burn a candle when someone passes on as an offering, or you make offerings to people who have passed on. That's how you deify someone. So, and it helps. You push that person's vibrational energy up, because you're pouring energy into their plethora of energy that they have to go up. This is what the ancient Egyptians believed. This is why, when certain people broke into certain tombs, like death would come upon the whole crew. You know, like he who opens this shit, Pandora's box. You know what I'm saying? This is the weight of gold. You know, like it's not just a encryptic science. It is, but it's not just an encryptic science and just a bunch of word babble. You know what I'm saying? This isn't Babylonian. It's looking like it's becoming, but Babylonian, babbling. Yeah, man. So like demons could be related to you and causing trauma to you because of essentially some form of incest. Demons could not be related to you and be on the other side of the family tree and causing harm to you because that's a associated energy format that you're vibrating to or having trouble vibrating out of. They're past teachers trying to teach you about the present, so you can move on to your angels, which are just different facets or copies of the same demon that you're dealing with, so that you can see the angel, and the grass is greener on the other side. Like the same angel that you're working with has a demon that it is also occupying cahoots with, possibly even in the same body, that at one point or another you dealt with. And you're essentially so familiar with whatever that demon is that you learned how to like transmute it into its angelic self. That now you and that angel are so good of buddies. You guys are such good buddies. You know, you get blessings from that angel all the time. It's the same thing with karma. You know, you go over the hill of karma and you go down the hill of dharma into the plethora of hills that people are trying to like climb. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing regurgitated, man. I can like flip all the scripts back into the source. Seraphs and cherubim. Like, when you hear about them, you hear seraphs doing really good deified stuff and doing really bad stuff. And you hear cherubims doing the same. They all got in a war about free will over you. We. Us. Because we're new. We're new. Like, there's always been cherubs. There's always been seraphs. But there's never been a combining of the two up there. You know what I'm saying? So like the story, the 40 prophets, the Virgin Mary. Mary means priestess. It's not a name. It's a title. That whole concept, all that stuff, the Christ, the Christos, the Krishna, the oil, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the melanin, the hormones, the light hormones. I'm going to get way deeper into all this soon. It all plays a role in essentially how this DNA makeup came to be, how this vibrational frequency incarnated here in the first place. Like, this story essentially is the story of our body as to how we could come down as a vessel, because they essentially had to genetically engineer two races to intermingle with one another. That's why you hear about the age of Gemini and the twins, or the age of Virgin or Virgo and Medusa and Madonna. That's why you hear about all these ancient stories where the scripts are flipped, the deified ones are demonized, and the demonized ones are praised, and they rewrite history, and then they just do it all over again until you have to undo that so many times where you can barely keep track of what's what, that by the time you finally get to the truth, you realize the truth was there all along, everywhere. Everywhere. You know? Everywhere. I can break everything down to sex, gender, polarity, light and dark, or whatever, the illusion of darkness, because it's just the absence of light. Cherubs and seraphs. Angels and demons. Interdimensional ancestors. Beings of another realm that came here to create beings of another realm. And it was their last resort, but it was also their first resort. It was their saving grace, but it was also their last hope. It was the whole reason why they got into the war in the first place, but it was also the reason, the number one way that they could defend against the war and buy more time. It was a way to Russian roulette fate. We know what's going to happen if this team wins. We know what's going to happen if this team loses, if this team wins, if this team loses. We don't know what's going to happen or who's going to win if we combine the teams. That's something I don't even, how do you